Hello and welcome to another episode of the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review Podcast. This is episode 120. On this show, we showcase gun reviews, gear, and anything else that gun enthusiasts may be looking for. We strive to evaluate products from an unbiased and honest perspective. I'm your host, Ryan Cross, from the Firearms Radio Network, your source for broadcasts for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. Today I have with me Chad and Tony, and then we've also got some guest appearance by Matt. He's over from the Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns podcast, and I'll mix in his intro and his review today in today's episode. But how you guys doing? What did you guys do in guns this week?
Hey, what's going on, Ryan?
It's all you,
Chad.
Tony.
Oh, it's all me? I finally got to take out my Glock 19, try to have a good experience with it since it didn't work out for me well the first time. Well, it didn't work out for me well the second time either. Discovered my front sight. Likes to dance around like the dancing bear, and I need to get a new one. So that's me and guns this week. I'll tell you next week about how my new Glock sights work.
Sounds like loads of fun. At least I had better luck than you did. I went to the range and shot a bunch of different types of ammo in that 243 I won, and figured out that it likes lighter bullets as opposed to heavier ones. So now I have some options to work up the load.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I yesterday, actually would be Monday, the day after Valentine's Day. I was gonna go to the range with my buddy, and it turns out that the range was closed for 2 days, being that there was another holiday that I wasn't really counting on closing down the range. But luckily, there's a big gravel pit within a few miles of that we were able to find and go shooting anyway. So it's in the Olympic State Forest in Washington State, kind of a sanctioned shooting area. It's pretty much a big gravel pit that's got a lot of junk and garbage, and I kind of hate those kind of shooting ranges. But we stood there and watched people that were there, made sure they were being safe, and everyone was obeying the rules as far as common sense, not pointing it down range and not being stupid. And after we felt like everyone was kind of good enough, we brought our guns out, and I shot my I shot 2 guns that were new and have not been shot yet. So I finally popped their cherries. I've shot the Tavor, which is about time. And I have a Vortex Prism 3x sight on there, so I was able to get that zeroed in, and I like it a lot. Just put about 100 rounds to it. No malfunctions whatsoever. I had issues at the very beginning. I had a very small Magpul magazine, like one of those small 10-rounder ones, and trying to load it into the magwell on a closed bolt, and I didn't like that very much, so I had to lock the bolt open in order to get it out, and then I just seated it better and then closed the bolt on that. That was the only issue I had since then. So we shot that in a bit. Then I got to shoot my SIG P938, shoot regular range ammo through it, as well as shoot some of the SIG V-Crown ammo that I plan on carrying with it. Because if you're carrying a SIG, you gotta be loyal to the brand and carry SIG ammo. Everyone knows that. So it shot well. I did notice, because it's actually a smaller, obviously it's a micro pistol, kind of a pocket pistol, and it's smaller. Logically, to me, I was pulling a little bit left because I'm right-handed, and the pull or the length of my hand is gonna make my finger go farther into the trigger than I'm used to. And so I think that's why my shots are pulling left. So compensating for that, I kind of pulled my finger to the right a little bit more, used more of the pad of my finger. I think I was kind of getting into the first crease of your knuckle, and then they kind of centered after that. So that was good. But also, what I was most excited to shoot is I finally got the Alpha Wolf barrel for my Glock 19. And so I was able to use it with my brand new 9mm can, the Eco 9 from Advanced Armament Corporation. So I was able to shoot this combination. I had subsonic ammo as well as supersonic. So 115 grain. I had some 124 grain. It was the M-Con ammunition. Liked it a lot. It's like a laser beam. I can't believe how accurate it is, and I don't even have suppressor sights on here. It just barely obscures. It covers up the light on the left and right hand side of the front post. But as long as you line up the sights, I'm using a 2-dot system, so I just make a figure 8 with the rear dot and front dot, and pull the trigger, and it was as accurate as I've ever been with a pistol. So it's pretty awesome. Let alone subsonic 9mm is just stupid quiet, and everyone would actually stop shooting just so they could hear how quiet it was.
They could hear you go pew pew.
They could hear me go pew pew just barely. And noticing the minute differences between shooting subsonic and supersonic and how those differ in the sound, the resonance of the suppressor, it making a lot more of that whoosh noise with the supers, and then subs, you just mainly hearing the slide, and then you hearing the impact of the round hitting the wood of the pallet or ricocheting off the rocks in the pit. It was actually really fun. But this Lone Wolf barrel, really nice. This Alpha Wolf barrel. So I shot about 100 rounds, and I can see a lot of leading on the inside of my slide. I haven't cleaned it yet. Give me a break. It's been just over 24 hours, so I'll clean it tonight, I promise. Like I need to. It's a Glock, right? But yeah, it performed awesomely. The suppressor never loosened from the threads at all. I'd check every magazine to see if it loosened at all, and it did not. So that's really nice. Also really easy to take off. It's not like it got binded up or anything like that. So overall, I'm very pleased with that shooting experience. I'm going to have to go back to that range when they're open and get a membership because it looked pretty nice from the drive-thru that we did. Also, I got a call from Rainier Arms that my SBR is ready to pick up. So I'll probably be doing that here this week, is heading up north and picking up my Lone Wolf G9 that's been SBR'd. Hooray!
I saw a picture that I think Rainier Arms had posted or something, and it was a 9mm SBR like yours. So you better ask them if they're taking pictures of your gun.
Did it have a did it have a stealth gray painted forearm?
I don't think so.
That's mine.
Yeah, I didn't figure it was yours.
If it's not rocking that battleship gray, then it ain't mine.
You're going to lose that thing on the concrete.
Yeah, right? There's going to be an earthquake, and there's going to be cement everywhere. I'm going to be like, oh no, where'd my rifle go?
Yeah, no kidding.
So that's what I did in guns. Pretty exciting stuff. So just to blow through the announcements here, like I said, we've got Matt Martin from the Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns podcast, and he has a review for us on this episode. The bandwidth sponsor for the for the Gun and Gear Review podcast is Patriot Patch Co. Check out the newly added patches for pre-order now, including the I Call Her Vera patch, inspired by the TV series and movie Serenity, but the TV series Firefly. In fact, the Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns podcast featured the Vera patch on one of their latest shows. Also, we've got Endless Possibilities with an AR-15 lower, Make Your Own Damn Sandwich. We got some great patches available for pre-order right now. So check that out at patriotpatch.co today. Also, guests are always welcome. Send me a email if you're interested in joining the podcast. One very quick note, or important note, to add to that is the email has changed for this podcast. So instead of what I would usually say, you're going to want to send emails to gungearreview@gmail.com. That's gungearreview@gmail.com, and that's how you can get a hold of me. Also, in the spirit of change, the Firearms Insider website is now on a new platform. It went from WordPress to now it's on Squarespace, which is my own personal favorite content management system. So I've been very busy this week to make sure that it's up and running and looking good on mobile devices, and kind of formatting all the old reviews onto the new format. But in the short run, we hope that this website will be a lot easier to use, both for all of us staff as well as for you, the listeners, to use in order to comment on reviews and posts and the like, as well as submit your own reviews and become a Firearms Insider community reviewer. We've also got some more surprises to add to that site here. So go on over to firearmsinsider.tv and check it out. Take it for a test drive. So that's the announcements. Let's get into the very first product this week that we're going to talk about, and it's the Browning X-Bolt Hells Canyon Speed. So it's an X-Bolt that is much different from what traditional French walnut you might be used to seeing on the gun counter or at the gun store rifle racks. So the whole Hells Canyon Speed is kind of their series of clothes and other hunting gear that's got the ATAX pattern on it, and that's kind of meant for, I guess, high speed, low drag, but in the hunting field. So what I found most interesting is about the X-Bolt rifle here is the calibers it's chambered in. All the standard ones: 243, 7mm 08, 308, 270, 30-06, 7 rem mag, 300 Win mag, 300 Winchester short mag, 270 Winchester short mag. There's 2 calibers on there that you don't really see on different rifles, and it's kind of a little bit more of a niche thing. Obviously, the 26 Nozzler, which came out a couple years ago, and you only saw in a few rifles. Now you can get that in a Browning rifle. But the 6.5 Creedmoor, which is gaining a lot of popularity now, is also available in the X-Bolt platform.
Nice.
So yeah, so the barrel length is 22 inches for the 6.5 Creedmoor. Magazine capacity is 4. It's an internal box, it's a detachable box magazine, just like X-Bolts usually are. The stock itself is that ATAX that's been applied on there. It does have a burnt bronze Cerakote on the receiver as well as the barrel. It's glass bedded, it's drilled and tapped for scope mounts. The barrel profile is heavy sporter. It's free floating, hand chambered with a target crown. The bolt, like most X-Bolts, it's a 60-degree bolt lift with adjustable trigger, detachable rotary magazine, like I said before. The safety is that top tang that the X-Bolts are known for. And yeah, I mean, if you're familiar with an X-Bolt and you like them, now there's a cooler looking one that's ATAX from the factory, and you can get it in a hot new caliber. Or it's not new, but it's gaining a lot more popularity.
Yeah, and I was at the range, yesterday, which was Monday, and I actually saw somebody shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor, which I think is the first 6.5 Creedmoor I've seen at the range. Of course, it wasn't a Browning X-Bolt, but hey, it was at least a 6.5 Creedmoor. If you like Brownings, this is a nice rifle. I kind of like their, I don't know, whatever ATAX camo. I mean, it looks kind of like they painted on about 3 different colors and then just took their hand and smeared them together, which it makes for a good look, though. I mean,
it's a good pattern. It's very organic. There's no hard edges.
Yeah.
It's kind of made for it almost looks like a drier environment, but they do make it in kind of a greener hue. So this is the ATAX AU camo.
Right. And it says, but yeah, it says with the AU's arid/urban. So
right.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, arid/urban.
Hey,
So Tucson, Arizona, you are like invisible.
That's
exactly.
Right.
I'm like, arid? What? Oh, you gotta love marketing. Yeah, look, it's poo-poo brown, all right? It streaks. I like the Browning. I think you have one, right, Ryan?
I did have one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to check one out for real, because they sound like really nice rifles. Because I shoot other people's guns at the ranges when I haven't seen something before. I ask, and usually, like gun people, they allow you to shoot it. I was looking at the weight, which is 6.5 pounds, which isn't horrible because pretty much, especially with something like a 6.5, what your scope, your glass that you put on it probably weighs about 2 pounds, right? Pretty much
Depending.
any quality glass.
Yep.
Is it? Yeah. So I mean, it's not exceedingly heavy. I mean, the M16A2 weighs almost 9, and that's without any sights. So looks like it's cool.
And another nice thing I didn't mention was that it comes with a muzzle brake from the factory too, and that's something that it's kind of hard to do when you get a rifle that's got like the traditional X bolts have a kind of more aggressive, a standard taper, and there's just not enough meat on the end of the barrel to have a gunsmith thread it. Usually, if they can, you can look forward to an upwards of $150 to $200 fee for them to thread it, and then let alone get some kind of muzzle brake that's going to match the diameter of the end of that. So the fact that they do this from the factory adds to its value, which I will say it's a little high, but considering everything you're getting for $1,199, I'm sorry, it's $1,199.99. So pretty much $1,200. But that's a fair amount that you're getting. Add on a decent scope, and you've got yourself a very capable rifle at the range as well as in the field. And it doesn't weigh a ton like some of the heavier Remington Senderos or long Remington long range, as well as the Patriot and some of the other Nosler rifles and the Sockos, the heavier ones.
Yeah, it's not something that you're going to get tired carrying around all day in your urban environment. Oh, wait.
Arid
environment.
Well, I mean, from what I remember, the Browning shelf when I worked at Cabela's, I had a lot of X bolts and A bolts, and it had some X bolts that had this definitely unique pattern. It was basically the Browning Stag logo icon, but just repeated and rotated around in different degrees of gray, and that was the camo finish on there. So I think if this showed up on the shelf alongside all those others, I think it would sell quite a bit because it's got the best of all worlds. Some people want to hunt with a synthetic stock that's got a camo finish. That burnt bronze is so hot right now. That Cerakote burnt bronze,
yeah, it's been hot for a while now.
Yeah. I don't like it, but hey, it's hot.
Yeah, I mean it looks good.
Yeah,
but everybody's doing it
in arid urban environments.
Yeah. Also, a funny thing, because I learned with my rifle, 30-06, axes, you don't want them too light. You don't want your rifle too light. I'm a guy that shoots Mosins by the box, steel butt plate, 9-pound rifle. Man, 10 rounds into that 30-06 that weighs 6 pounds, I'm done to go home. Yeah, I'm done with this. Yeah. This is no fun.
Yeah, but
go ahead, Chad.
I was gonna say you got to figure these are pretty much built for your hunter, maybe longer range hunters. So, they're gonna fire 1-2 shots.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think it's that bad. I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. Is depending on the caliber and a light rifle does not make your shoulder feel very good.
Well, here's my problem. I'd never had a scoped firearm before. So I was going to learn how to shoot on a scoped 30-06 that weighed 6 pounds. No. I found it a lot easier and cheaper to buy a scope for my Kruger 1022 and practice on that.
Oh, so that's what happened to your glasses.
Yeah, this was a while ago. I still haven't tackled that 30-06 again.
Well, the X-Bolt has a pretty generous rubber pad on the back with a nice rounded edges and contour. So it's definitely a good recoil absorbing pad, as well as that muzzle brake, depending on your caliber. 6.5 is not really a hard on the shoulder, but if you had it in something like the 300 Win Mag or the 7 Rem Mag or even that 30-06, you'd definitely be glad that you had that muzzle brake on there. It doesn't make you any friends of the range, and definitely will startle most game that is around you. But you could take it off and install like a suppressor if you're in a state that's legal to hunt with a suppressor on there. You're in shape, buddy. That's a nice deal right there.
Yeah, speaking of calibers, I had a friend of mine just purchased a bolt action. What was it, Savage? Impulse buy. He wanted to buy one in 308, and the guy at the gun store convinced him 308 and 300 Win Mag were the same thing. Yeah, so he bought a 300 Win Mag.
Oh, we lost Tony.
Oh, good story, Tony. I'll remember that one for the ages.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I got the link to that in the show notes. Next product could find itself at home on that rifle very well. Sorry, Tony, we moved on because you dropped out.
No problem.
One of those days again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's all right.
That was a cool story, bro.
Yeah.
It was awesome. You should have seen it. It was great. I'm not telling you now. It's over.
Yep.
So since we're talking about shooting long range, Vortex has a new scope for 2016. It says the Golden Eagle HD. It's a 15 to 60 by 52 scope. It's going to be available this summer 2016. It's got an MSRP of $1,899. The Golden Eagle HD 15 to 60 by 52 comes in two reticle types, the ECR-1 MOA and the SCR-1 MOA. So the first one is enhanced battle reticle. It's kind of like the EBR. So it's got hash mark ranging reticle using MOA-based subtension lines for ranging holdover and windage corrections, nice even increments. And the SCR-1 reticle is kind of basically a lot more, how would you describe that? A little bit more simplistic?
Yes, that's.
Yeah.
But what I didn't get is, I'm on their site, of course, and it says the SCR-1 reticle is hash marked ranging reticle, but the picture they showed just shows two. Two basic lines that intersect. So
I feel like I'm looking through like an old Bushnell with just the two hairlines.
Yeah.
So if that's really true, what I would say is that it's kind of made for if you do all your windage and elevation adjustments on the turrets, and you just want a really crisp and clean reticle, well, there you go. If you like to use a combination of both your subtensions on your reticle and your turrets, then you can use the ECR-1. It's kind of the big difference between the ECR and the EBR, which you'd find on like more of their Viper scopes, the Viper PSTs, is the ECR doesn't have a top vertical post. So you've got your x-axis and your y-axis is just the bottom post. But you've got a center dot, then you've got increments of 2, 4, 6, and 8 MOA with subtensions in between them. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 nice increments of 1 MOA in between. But it's got the numbers printed on there on the reticle so that you can very quickly use them for reference. Yeah, I wonder if the SCR is really that minimal, or whether they just forgot to update it right, because that does seem odd.
It may actually be busier and have more, little hash marks in it. You never really know.
Yeah.
Since I have nothing to go off of, I'm shooting blindly. Ha ha. Kind of like that.
We're just gonna speculate on that one. As far as the scope itself. It's got an eye relief of 3.9 inches. The field of view is 6.3 to 1.7 feet at 100 yards. Tube size is 30 mil tube. So the turrets are target style. The adjustment graduation is 1/8 MOA, which is something that you don't usually see. Usually it's 1/4 MOA or 1/2 MOA. So you have a lot more fine-tuned turret adjustment. Travel per rotation is 10 minutes of angle. Max elevation adjustment is 55 minutes of angle, and the max windage adjustment is 45 minutes of angle. Parallax setting is 15 to infinity. The total length is just over 16 inches, and the weight is 29.7 ounces. I'm wondering if that 16 inches is including the scope shade that they often include with their higher-end scopes. I'm betting it does. So you'd have to take off like another 3 to 4 inches if you weren't counting that scope shade.
Yeah, it has an extra windage count. I'm looking at this, and it's pretty cool. It seems, I mean, it's more likely for bench rest shooting. At least that's the picture they have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, you would have those, 1/8 MOA adjustments because, I mean, it's that.
And he dropped out again. So basically what he's saying is that because of the way this scope is set up, it's kind of ideal for like F-class shooting or any kind of bench rest shooting. Not necessarily hunting. In fact, you probably wouldn't want to use this for hunting because of this such minute adjustments. You'd be cranking that turret for days trying to get your elevation for your longer shot.
With the low range being 15 power, I'm thinking you could use it for hunting, but most people, it's pretty much a target scope.
But very small holes close together.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has, like, I was looking at the convenience features. It's got the 10 MOA turret, so, you turn it once and it's 10 MOA. It's got an aperture stop ring, which is kind of cool. Broadens the focus, allowing the shooter to more easily observe mirage and wind indicators while keeping the target in focus, which is kind of cool for long-range shooters. So I thought those were kind of cool little things they offer. I don't know, you might have seen this, Ryan, if the turrets are resettable to like 0. I'm assuming they are, especially for this price range. I just probably skipped over it.
I'm not. They call it the CRS system, and I'm not seeing it highlighted, but that doesn't mean that they just overlooked it and forgot to mention it.
Well, that's what I suffer from.
Yeah, looking at the picture, it's hard to tell. It wouldn't be very hard for them to do that. It's just weird that it's not mentioned in features because that's one of their more pronounced features of all of their Viper scopes.
Right, and it does include an extra windage turret with alternate laser markings. So,
yeah,
that's probably something to do with it. So
I just looked in the frequently asked questions or the Q&A.
Yeah.
Somebody did ask about 19 days ago, does it come with a zero stop? And they responded saying the Golden Eagle does not have a zero stop feature because known distance F-class and bench rest shooters are not shooting in high stress scenarios and frequently make multiple turret rotations. We felt as though the savings in weight and cost by not using the zero stop system in this competition scope were worth it. So evidently they chose to nix that just to save on some weight and also probably some manufacturing costs.
Which makes sense with what they were shooting for.
That's a real good convenience thing in the field when you're taking a shot 800 yards at an animal and then you want to return to your 100-yard zero. But I got a feeling if you're shooting F-class or bench rest, you're of the more detail-oriented about your equipment, and you will be able to return back to zero.
Yes.
Yeah, they have copious notes. I like shooting little groups. So I've watched these guys. I've checked out various videos on YouTube, and I actually watched a couple of shows with them. And I'm like, no, I don't think I can do that. And I wonder this, though, because Vortex is always a good value for the money. What would be something equal to Vortex with all these features? Like, how much more would it be from, let's say, Loophole or... I don't even know who else would get into this area. U.S. Optics, maybe,
Swarovski,
and
U.S. Optics.
Night Force.
Yeah, Night Force. Huskama.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I'm figuring
guessing.
these prices double.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, or at least $2,500 or something. When it would be my guess on a comparable scope, because Vortex always, seems to price their stuff so people can afford it, and you're getting as good a quality as others in
Yeah.
a lower price range.
Yeah, it seems to me if you go with Vortex, you're getting the best value for the dollar you spend, and they give you a couple of areas, entry levels, to come in at. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah,
lower but still quality.
they got scopes priced from $150 up to what, 3,000, 2,500. I don't know what their
Yeah,
most expensive one is.
I think it's the one that came out at the same time as this. It's American made, all American made. They're all American made scope. I forget what it's called, AMD or something like that. They just came out with.
Yeah, the AMG. It's
Okay.
prices start at $33.99 for that, but we'll talk about that some other day probably.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I just look.
Hey, we lost Tony again.
Yep, that's okay.
Let's see.
Oh,
Is there anything we missed on this?
Well, this wouldn't necessarily go well on that Browning we mentioned earlier, but if you
No.
got the Ruger Precision Rifle in 6.5 Creedmoor for the purpose of shooting from the bench competitively, this would be perfect for that, because not only did you get an awesome, sweet rifle for a good value, but now you can get a really good scope for that value. That's something Vortex didn't really have to offer. I think if you had even the 6 to 20 or the 4 to 16 on your bench rest scope, I think you do that one round, and then you'd slowly realize that everyone else has more expensive scopes than I do, and they're scoring way better. So this is something that's kind of it was a gap in their lineup that they're filling
Right.
by addressing the target shooting crowd.
And it's a good.
Yeah, I think so.
Even for the target shooting, I'd say this target shooting crowd. This is still probably a steal for what you're getting.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. From when I looked around, yeah.
Well, and of course it's got the VIP unconditional lifetime warranty. So I mean, you could literally be a sore loser and smash this thing in the parking lot of the range, and as long as you didn't admit fault, they'd pretty much take care of you, no problem, no questions asked.
From what I was talking to a guy at one of the local stores, and he said he had just one of their, I don't remember which scope it was, but one of the Vortex scopes, and he actually called him up. He'd bought the rifle from somebody, and they ran over it with a pickup, left it leaning up against the pickup, and then backed up, drove over it, just wrecked the scope, but the rifle was still in halfway okay shape. And he said he called Vortex up, and they sent it to him, and he said they actually still replaced it, even though he admitted fault. So I at least know of one case where admitting fault got it replaced.
Unconditional, that's kind of where that comes in.
Yep.
So we got the link in the show notes. I know Tony mentioned it earlier, but just to reiterate it, because I think we kind of skipped over one additional feature included in the box. It comes with the extra windage turret, which they're saying has alternative laser markings on it. So for your windage adjustment, which you do a whole lot of in F-class and bench shooting, especially given the climate and the area, perhaps it's a different turret that gives you faster readings, or maybe not as. It's got to differ between the other windage turrets. So what do you think? It's a little bit more simplified, or?
I really have no idea what it would come with or what it wouldn't. I would guess that, maybe the extra turret is, maybe it's like, instead of, miles per hour, it's maybe got half miles per hour on it, or quarter or something, maybe. As opposed to just clicks.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of it, and it's entirely more complicated than any turret that I've seen, so I couldn't begin to describe to you how nice of a windage adjustment that is. It obviously does have arrows to indicate which direction is right, which one's left, and so that's kind of printed right on the cap there. Same thing with the elevation turret. It says U with a arrow, so to make sure that you're rotating it in a counterclockwise motion instead of the other way around. That's kind of cool. It's nice to get an extra turret in the box to kind of adjust it to your preference. So check out the link in the show notes for that, the Vortex Golden Eagle HD. Next up, we got something that I expect Tony to have a little experience with. Is that right? You happy to see this in here, bud?
Oh, that was great, man. I love it.
So you go ahead and introduce it.
This is the Inland Ithaca Model 37 trench gun. This was pretty much one of the leftovers from World War II that showed up in Vietnam and kicked butt. And it's set up in the trench gun look with the heat shield, with the bayonet lug, with just all the really cool goodness of any surplus military shotgun. This is a reproduction of the original 1937. This is getting made by Inland. I think Inland changed manufacturers or whatever. It's not the Inland, whatever.
Well, I'll keep going here. It really is. It's the Ithaca 37 trench gun, and they basically did a reproduction of it. And by looking at it and reading the article, it looks like they did their research, and pretty much everything on it looks like, it would have looked in World War II.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
it's awesome.
Bayonet lug, everything on it. So it looks like they even put like a parkerized finish on it instead of a blued finish.
Yeah, parkerized. Yeah.
So
you okay?
He might. I'm not sure if he is or not. But yeah, that's what I know on him, and I will agree with Tony. This thing is really cool. Now, here's the bummer. It retails for $1,239, but it comes with the military sling or leather. They didn't say which. It has a capacity of 4+1, so overall length is 38.5 inches. 20-inch barrel, weighs 6.7 pounds. It's a full machined receiver out of steel, so a chunk of steel they cut to make it. They reproduced the military stamps as the original, so those are the same. The loading and ejection are the same, of course, so it's through the belly of the receiver. If you don't know, the Ithaca 37s eject down out the bottom, so you don't have, which can only be a problem if your arm gets in the way and you get hot brass on your arm.
It's called It's Only a Problem If You're a Girl. Ithaca Model 37 is awesome.
I was gonna say sometimes they used full brass shells in these, didn't they? So I don't know if I'd want to get
back in World War I.
Full brass shell stuck to my arm.
It won't stay stuck for long.
My understanding is that the bottom eject of the Model 37 was kind of designed, I don't know, maybe this is just kind of after the fact and someone made the correlation, but if you were in close quarters, like against a trench wall, and you had a right side ejection port, and you shot your shot, and you ejected your shell, it could bounce off the wall and get back into your action, depending on your proximity to that wall. So having a bottom ejection port on the shotgun allows to throw the round straight down and avoid that issue. I don't know if that was like part of the design process or whether it was just a benefit of, oh hey, this bottom ejection works really well in the trench because it's not throwing the shell sideways.
Or it
well,
doesn't
also you
throw it
think about the
sideways.
fact that there's less holes in the receiver.
Yeah, for mud.
Well, less holes in the receiver means less dirt in the gun. Yeah, and another thing. because I looked at the price, and of course, you know me, Joe Cheap Dirt here. I don't like spending money, and you can make up a trench-looking shotgun from anyone. But looking up Model 37 trench gun, yeah, well, one from World War II goes for about $13,000 now. So when you're wowing at the price, understand if you want a World War II version, it's in Cabela's in South Carolina. I think it's called Fort Mill, Cabela's. They have a really nice one for $12,999, and then they have a crappy one for $5,999. So this is a steal.
So this 10% of what the really nice one costs. Yeah. Oh, okay.
And the other thing is, if you want one, now you can get them starting at about $350 for just a regular Ithaca hunting shotgun, you know, 20-something inch barrel and 16-20 gauge. But it starts at like $350, and pretty much they roll about $600 to $700 about average for one of these. So this is not really that crazy. I mean, it's brand new. They had to come up with all the machining and everything else, you know, to put this together, however they do it, to make it as authentic. So, and this is MSRP, so it might be a couple $100 cheaper than this. So now you're talking what, $1,800, $900 for something you can't really get unless you spend 10 times the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll
I have
have a
a,
market.
I mean, I didn't think there'd be a market for it, but who knows?
yeah. I actually have a 37 that my grandpa gave me, except it wasn't from the war. It was just a 37 lightweight or featherweight.
Featherweight.
Just a field shotgun for hunting. I couldn't hit crap with that barrel. He had duct taped some kind of orange bead on the end of it, and I always got stuck with it when I was a kid. And I'd blame the shotgun, and I'd give it to my dad, and he'd miss birds with it, and he'd throw it back at me. And I actually, in my stupid youth, I actually hacksawed the barrel down to 18.5 inches, and had it, you know, I had some kind of brake welded onto the end of it to make a trench-like gun, and I regret doing that, but it still works to this day. And the coolest thing about 37s, at least most of them, is that they slam fire, meaning you hold the trigger down and you can pump the action, and when you put that next round into the chamber, if you've got your finger held down on the trigger, it'll fire. So
Yeah, they were designed
that's pretty
that
cool.
way.
It's awesome.
If I remember right, they were designed that way. Some of the early.
All right. Hey, by the way.
Yeah.
You see who's marketing them, right? MKS Supply.
Yeah.
You know who that is, right?
No,
it's my favorite company. Of course, I'm going to tell you, unless I get cut off first. High Point.
High Point.
That's one of the companies. That's the company that actually owns High Point. MKS Supply. I met the president. I met the president last week of the company, and he didn't tell me about this.
Well, you didn't ask.
Yeah.
Well, I should have known. I was like, hey, anything cool coming out?
Nope.
And you know, I work with Ryan Cross. I work with Ryan Cross, and that's Jersey legal. Can I take it with me?
They do.
Because they also have the M1 carbine that they Inland just put out. But here's the thing: M1 carbine is not Jersey legal.
If you're gonna name drop a Ryan, you might as well just name drop Ryan Machad, because it's gonna get you a lot further than me. I guarantee.
I was gonna say you name drop.
Well, when
Ryan,
I say Ryan,
you're probably.
Well, if I name drop Ryan,
nothing. You get nothing.
Well, I name drop Ryan, and they assume it's Ryan McChad, and I just roll with it.
There you go. There you go. So looking at Inland Manufacturing's website, looks like previously they had the M1 and the 1945 or 1944 configurations, and the M1A1 paratrooper, as well as those are the carbines. And as far as handguns go, they had the 1911 A1 government and the 1911 custom carry. So they don't have a shotgun added to the website yet, but this looks to be their first shotgun to add to their line. So I look forward to seeing that.
I do have to say, I read about the M1 carbine copies they make, and they don't really have a good reputation. But this was going back to the mid 2000s and to about 2011, where when I read these, because another company, this is Inland, right? Car also came out with a version of the M1 carbine, and it seems like no one can make these things like they used to make them for some bizarre reason.
I think they try
Like
to
the
make them too
qualities.
tight. They try to make their tolerances too tight.
Yeah, I mean, whatever they do, and you'd figure, this is a 1942 design, they'd have it down by now. I mean, Inmate came up with the system with like a piece of paper and stuff, and a pencil in a jail cell. But somehow when people reproduce the M1 carbine, they just don't get it right. And then the prices they charge for them, well, that's about the price of an M1 carbine from World War II costs now. So the reproductions cost as much as you can buy one that was actually in the war. So, I mean, it's not worth it. But this shotgun, on the other hand, one, it's shotgun. I really don't think you can mess up I assume you can't mess up a pump shotgun. And two, again, if you want a one from the Second World War, it's in the thousands of dollars. So this is your choice. This is the only option you have for a pretty cool Model 37 trench gun.
Yep.
Hope it works out for him.
All right. So now we're going to get into the reviews. Chad, you brought a review also today?
I did. If you want to let me do it,
go ahead.
I will do it. If I can figure this thing out. So today, the review I brought is on the Hyperfire HyperTouch 24C trigger. It is an AR style trigger for AR-15s, AR-10s, which I will try to explain if I can get my computer to work here. I will be doing something. Okay, here we go. It's a single stage trigger, flat face with a trigger shoe, and I will hold it up here. Actually, I might take it apart because it'll be easier for people to see what I'm doing.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Hyperfire has been manufacturing triggers for a while now. I did a review on their ECT trigger, I think it was. I may have that. EDT trigger is what I had it on. And so basically this trigger that is now able to be viewed, maybe you can see the little hyper shoe thing here, which is the little red piece. I'll explain a little more later. You can take it on or off and have a flat trigger. Hold on a second. We got stupid dogs barking. Okay. And so the HyperTouch trigger basically is designed for 3-gun. You could use it for target shooting. It has a bunch of different adjustments, so you can make it light, heavy, etc. So basically 3-gun, or anybody who wants a really, really good trigger for an AR, this probably do the trick. Now, the HyperTouch trigger comes with 3 different pairs of springs. You probably won't be able to see them, but there's these 2 springs. Actually, you kind of can see them in here. Comes with 3 different pairs, and basically what those springs do is adjust the weight and hammer fall energy. The colors, they come in blue, yellow, and plain. Blue are for medium trigger weights, stock hammer energy. Yellow's for light to medium weights, and standard hammer energy. And then you have the plain springs, which is what I put in, and they are for the lightest trigger pull, and they also increase the lock time and increase the hammer energy over a standard stock AR trigger set. And the spring system is pretty unique in aftermarket triggers. And if you manually cycle this trigger, the hammer, you'll feel it, and all of a sudden it'll just kind of fall back. And so what that does is it basically kind of, the way it's set up, it kind of helps pull the trigger once it cams over that center, and so that's how you can get a reduced pull weight with increased hammer energy. And so we did that, and along with the different springs, you get the hypershoe, which I will explain now. It can be positioned on any of 5 spots on the trigger. You can slide it up and down, and there's little like teeth to slide it up and down, and it'll catch on. I don't know if you could hear that, but it kind of makes a click as you do. You can move it up and down. And it's slightly curved, about twice as wide as your standard trigger. And you don't have to use the hypershoe, and then you just have a standard flat trigger, meaning literally flat, no curve. Told you how to adjust the hypershoe. And the thing with it is with the shoe in the lowest detent all the way down is what I called the lowest, you will get the lightest trigger pull weight, but because it's a pivoting trigger, it will actually move more. And if you put it all the way up, you get a slightly heavier pull, but less movement in the actual movement in the trigger itself where your finger's placed. And the pull weights vary depending on springs and where this hypershoe is, between 2 pounds and 4.5 pounds. This one, when I checked it, it runs about 2.5 where I have it set. So that's just kind of where I liked it. I didn't like it all the way up. It didn't fit my hand placement very well. So installation on it is not as easy as, some of your other aftermarket triggers where they're all one piece and you pull your old trigger out, drop it in, and put 2 pins in. It's not that easy. But if you can put a standard AR fire control group in, you can probably install this. But if you don't think you can, I'm sure you could find a gunsmith that will install it for you. So basically, you install the trigger system, the trigger shoe, and put the pin in like you normally would. Then you assemble these kind of other hammer pieces, which their instructions have good pictures, show you quite a bit, so I won't go too far into it. And then you can slide the hammer pin in like normal. But then that's where the fun part starts, because now you have a little piece that holds those twin springs in, and you have to try to push it against spring pressure and put it in this little notch. Kind of falls over and then springs back into it. And you really need about a third hand for that, is what I found. So once you get all that done, safety check your firearm and go try it out. This trigger is fantastic. Super smooth, crisp, super light. Not too light that you'll have problems, but I've actually used it in 3-gun and just shooting paper target shooting. It's performed flawlessly, all types of ammo, even steel cased, and with my 22 conversion kit, because yes, I still have 22 ammo. And everything I've shot through it went bang. I'm trying to think, probably put over 500 rounds of 223 5.56 through it, and probably about that many 22 through it. The crisp pull, fast lock time makes for a great experience. If you're in the market for an AR trigger, and if you can try one of these out, try it out and see if you like it, because they're pretty cool. I don't think you'll be disappointed with their 24 product line. So now we got the claim to fame on our Firearms Insider 8 key points. It's a precision single-stage adjustable trigger for the AR-15 platform. Target market is 3-gun competition, varmint hunters, target shooters, or anybody looking for a really good trigger. Now, our features and benefits: it's adjustable. It has the hyper shoe, which is kind of nice. I must admit, I was kind of hesitant about it, but I've tried it both ways, and it's really nice to put on there. You pretty much put your finger where you need it all the time. It has increased hammer energy, increased lock time, flat face trigger, and it is a single stage trigger. So if you like 2-stage triggers, this probably won't be for you. Other authentic finishes or triggers, you can get the same trigger without the curved bow in the Hyperfire 24 3G, which is basically it's the curved 3-gun trigger. All the same features except for the adjustable trigger shoe. Now, what others are saying, Justin in ATX on Amazon gave it 5 of 5 stars. It was actually hard. I looked around to try to find bad reviews, and I couldn't really find any. It says, the best trigger I own. Just installed this on a high-end AR-308 build, and it runs like a champ. It slams down with authority, twice as powerful as any other trigger I own. I've encountered a few light strikes on my CNC 3.5-pound trigger, but that's not even possible with the Hyperfire. Great product. Only gripe, I don't like red. Please offer the finger rest in different colors. Which, as of now, if you want to buy an extra one, you can get it in blue or black. So they do offer the finger rest in different colors. So now we have Dan at Brownells. He gave it 5 of 5 stars too. Great trigger right out. There are several unique things about this trigger. First, it includes a trigger shoe with it. The second being a hammer has extra spring with it that acts sort of like a piston, giving the hammer some extra power. For starter, everything about this trigger is amazing. I never really bought enhanced single-stage triggers, and I always used the standard single-stage trigger. My other builds have a 2-stage trigger, which I like, but I had one built that I wanted to keep as a single stage. The hardest part about the standard mil-spec trigger for me is the reset after you fire. It makes the trigger feel jerky because you don't know when it's going to reset, so your finger is bouncing all around. Doing a slow fire with a single stage is a bit hard too, because the trigger has a little bit of roughness before the hammer falls. This is a standard trigger he's talking about. Overall, the Hyperfire 24C removes the jerky pull of a single stage and allows for a smoother reset. It also gives a consistent reset so you can keep your finger on the trigger all the way. The trigger comes with 3 sets of springs to put the piston behind the trigger. Hyperfire calls it light, medium, and medium. It gives no description as far as what the pull weight is in pounds. The best I can tell from reading the instructions is that the light roughly equals 3.5 pounds, medium to light is roughly 4 pounds, and medium equals roughly 4.5 pounds. I put the medium blue springs in since I wanted the heaviest pull weight possible. It fits me perfectly and doesn't feel unsafe for me. Also of interest is the trigger shoe that comes with this. It is adjustable and allows you to consistently put your finger in the same position each time. It also allows you to give extra leverage as far as pulling. Personally, I don't know what to make of the trigger shoe or how long it'll last on the trigger before it breaks or comes off. However, without the trigger shoe, the trigger looks like any flat bow trigger out there. Overall, very good trigger. Highly recommend looking into this if you're in the market for a single stage trigger. I put that review in there because it was fairly lengthy and some good points. There are some full reviews also on this trigger. They're in the review that should be up by the time the podcast comes out. There's one for 4 Guys Guns and We Like Shooting. Both reviewed this trigger. So you can click on those links and go check it out too. The price point is where, for what you get, I don't think this is an astronomical price, but MSRP on it is $235. Retail on it is basically the same. It's $235 at Brownells. Or you can get it for $220.95 at Amazon, which, hey, if you need it now, go to Amazon, Brownells, use our links, or you can go to Hyperfire itself and get it there. The pros is it's adjustable, it's got a crisp break, it's got a good reset for a light trigger. Flat bow with Hypershoe, it's pretty positive. Really fast lock time, gives you more hammer energy if you have the plain springs in it, and there is basically no over travel after it fires. And the cons, there is some slight creep to the trigger when the Hypershoe is at the bottom of the trigger bow, or your fingers all the way at the bottom. So if you're running the trigger, let me try to adjust this here, way down here. Let me try it this way. Way down here, you can feel a little bit of movement when you're using the trigger. That's about the only negative I could find. So I gave it a 9, which is amazing. And yes, everybody who I've had shot it pretty much said the same thing. They're like, this thing is fantastic. I took it out shooting once with my friends. I think 5 different people shot it that day, and they all pretty much were ecstatic about how nice it was. So I think that pretty much covers the trigger, unless you guys have some questions on it.
I'm good. Tony, you have any questions?
Well, I wondered, compared to other triggers in this price point, is it better or worse, or have you tried other triggers in this price point?
I haven't owned any, but I have tried a few. And if you can get the Geisley single stage, I like this better because this little adjustability in the shoe. But trigger pull wise, they're pretty close. Some of the others, I've shot a CMC trigger. It wasn't as nice, but they're also $70 cheaper or something. So, and if you go away from single stage triggers, you can go to a 2-stage, and then the break is comparable to a Geisley, basically.
All right. Now, I've shot a Geisley SSA trigger, and I was just wondering, because it was awesome. You know what I mean? I like shooting little groups, and man, does a good trigger make that possible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just the price range. I shoot the groups I shoot with iron sights with a mil-spec trigger, which is like 7.5 pounds.
Right.
And is what it is.
I had this one out yesterday, and there was like about a 5 to 10 mile an hour wind at the range, which was not fun. And it shot under an inch. Well, I was shooting under an inch, 5-shot groups with this trigger and rifle. So I figured that wasn't too bad. I mean, under an inch being 0.9, 0.877. So not spectacular, but really nice considering how much wind there was.
Yep.
That's cool.
Review.
Yeah, thanks. I think it was a pretty good review.
Well,
so you guys can check that out on the firearmsinsider.tv website. And for the tech gadget or app segment, we have three different price points for night vision scopes to add on to your existing scope, and I think you'll find that one of these 3 might be right up your alley if you've ever wanted to get into night shooting. So the company is by Night Sight, Nitesite, and they've got 3 different setups. They've got the Viper, and they've got the Wolf, and then they've got the Eagle. So it's kind of set up for short, medium, and long range. So the shortest one is called the Viper. I figured I'd talk mostly about that one since most of my listeners happen to be a little bit more budget-minded, but I will touch on the Wolf and the what was the other one? The Eagle. After we talk about the Viper. So the Viper, first off, price point. Everyone knows night vision is not a cheap market to get into. The Viper MSRP is for $705.87. So this is kind of really meant for targets up to 100 yards or 100 meters. It's kind of for the up close and personal night hunter. So it's about 110 yards actually. So what it does is it mounts onto the top of your scope, and it's got a unit that attaches to your the eyepiece, and you look through the top unit, and it has on this one it has a 3.5-inch LCD screen, which for LCD screens that's actually probably one of the nicer sized ones I've ever heard of. Usually when you think of these kind of units, they're a lot smaller and compact, really hard to pick out the detail. So it's a nice 3.5-inch LCD screen, and it's got a video out jack to enable recording your night hunting activities. In fact, both me and Tony watch some YouTube channels where they hunt at night, usually varmints in the UK, like rabbits, hares. Then you get a little bit of squirrels, and even some coyote and fox hunting at night using this kind of tool. It's actually makes some really nice video for uploading onto YouTube.
Yeah, definitely great video.
So the infrared view through your scope is played back live to the hunter via the screen, the night sight screen on top. It's really quick and easy to fit to any kind of normal scope. And that's kind of the real beauty of it. It just takes about 60 seconds once they're familiar with the setup. So it mounts to your tube. Obviously, the unit sits on the top of your scope. There's virtually no need to re-zero or adjust your scope in any way, so you can keep your zero. Just mount the unit, switch it on, and you're ready to go, which is a really nice way to have this thing set up. The Viper is available as standard with the small, lightweight, scope-mounted 1.5 amp battery that delivers a runtime of about 7.5 hours. Spare batteries are also available on their accessory page. 7.5 hours on one battery is extremely good for hunting. It's not like it's going to run out in the middle of your hunt. That's quite a long time.
That's all night.
Yeah. It'll be bright by the time you run out of the battery, so you won't really need it anymore, unless you're living in Alaska, in which case I'm sorry.
Just carry an extra battery.
Yep. That's all. Sun will be up in 3 months.
So, excluding the battery, it weighs 418 grams. I'm sorry that it's listed in grams, but to make it easier for you, 418 grams is equivalent to 14.75 ounces, give or take.
So a pound.
Yeah. Operating temperature is minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. See, I converted that from Celsius because I knew most of you guys would be like, what is this Celsius thing y'all talking about?
Except our Canadian listeners.
Except, yeah, TJ's not here to do that conversion for you. So the video output is a 3.5 millimeter 4-pin jack, and it is water resistant in case you're hunting in the rain. And of course, it is subject to weather conditions, so if it's a straight up downpour, you might want to at least cover your scope with something.
Oh, so it's not good for you or I.
I don't know. It's not too bad. I typically don't end up being. If it's raining, I'm typically done anyway. It does come with a really nice heavy-duty field case with the foam cut for all the accessory or all the parts that come with it. So you don't have to worry about throwing it all into a loose bag. It comes in a very nice hard case with pre-cut foam. It comes with a illuminator module and viewing screen, a digital IR camera module that puts out that infrared frequency. It comes with the lithium-ion battery, the battery charger, and the charger does have a red light to indicate the battery is currently charging, and it does turn green when the battery is fully charged to keep you from overcharging the battery. Multiple diameter scope sleeves, depending on the size of your objective, and it's got multiple diameter scope clamps, obviously for your 1-inch, your 30, and if you're a Night Force guy, they do have a 32 and a 34 millimeter clamp available, so hooray there. An anti-recoil clamp, and it's got anti-glare filters as well as a 2-year warranty card and the instruction booklet.
I find these things have to be pretty strong because the YouTube channels we watch, they use heavy-duty air guns. And air gun recoil is different than regular rifle recoil, and it's really wreaks havoc on a lot of scopes.
Yeah, you will damage a regular scope if it's not an air gun scope.
Yeah, so this doesn't break while they shoot air gun because they take pests like rats and pigeons, and they shoot it all the time. So I'm thinking this is a quality piece of gear from what I've seen.
Yep. And you can also, they are a licensed partner with Realtree, so you can get it available in a couple different camouflage patterns too. If you're really worried about blending in at night. And your black scope sticks out like a sore thumb, you can have it camoed. Yeah.
You know.
So, go ahead.
All I was gonna say is I'm looking at all of these, and I only see one problem with them. There is zero cheek weld.
There's zero
no cheek weld at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have to shoot from sticks. You just have to. There's no cheek weld at all.
You know, I wonder, I don't know how it mounts, but if it mounts and you could tilt it, like tilt the screen you're looking at, if they just like tilted it down like 30 degrees, then you could probably put your stock and just kind of look up at it. But, I don't know.
Well, what I've seen, everybody shoots off of sticks or one of the tripods or whatever like that, so and they just mount it up. Yeah, I mean,
because
this is not for stalking.
You're seeing your reticle in that screen.
Right.
So essentially you're just trying to hold it as still as possible. And a lot of people that actually record shooting, they have some kind of PCP air gun with a digital camera mounted behind their scope with a special adapter anyway. So having a cheek weld and recording shooting doesn't necessarily go hand in hand anyway.
Right.
But if you were looking for night vision, obviously you can get the units that mount forward of your objective, like a scout kind of mount. This is just kind of a different option, and it's kind of catered specifically for this style of shooting. But yeah, like Tony said, tripods or bipods or sticks.
Well, and the thing is the prices on these are way under what a lot of them are.
Well, what it is it's first or second generation IR scopes. I mean, we're talking 1950s technology here, but it's just reduced and much more dependable than it was back then with a much longer battery life. It's an IR. Right. It actually radiates energy, which is cool because it only gives a glow from what I've seen. So I like it. I look at the Viper as, I mean, what kind of distance are you talking about at night anyway? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So if you did want to step it up, just to kind of hit on all three, the Viper, which is about 110 yards distance, is $705.87. The next step up is the Wolf, and that's about 300 meters, which is about 328 yards, and that's $1,058.81. They do have a Wolf Power Plus, So I imagine that would give you a little bit farther range, and that is a little bit higher, about $1,176.46.
The plus option has a
Happy life.
large dock mounted 5.5 amp hour battery, so you
Yeah.
get 23 hours of runtime.
Yeah, in case you live in Alaska.
Right.
Well, then you go to the next one, which is the Eagle.
The Eagle, and that's 500 meters, which is about 550 yards, with an MSRP of $1,411.75. So that would be the farthest illuminating one that they have.
Which for infrared isn't bad for 500 yards.
And
Yeah.
standard, it comes with the 5.5 amp battery, which is 25 hours of runtime.
I mean, truthfully, these are, again, IR eliminators. These are not night vision. I mean, there's a difference, you know what I mean? It's not a starlight scope. And when you're talking these distances, I'm pretty impressed only because my use of starlight scopes and night vision goggles goes back to the early 90s, you know what I mean? So this is, what, a 500 yards? That's kind of awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
Of course, again, I used mine 20 years ago. You know what I mean? But this price point is not expensive comparatively.
No, I mean, really, it's cheaper than that scope we looked at earlier.
You know? And you use your own scope, your own zero. Again, what I saw these guys doing was, inside of barns. It's short distance varmint hunting. But I guess if you live somewhere where you're able to shoot things like hogs at night, 500 yards gives you a hell of a reach, depends on what kind of terrain you're hunting in.
Yep.
So this and a suppressor and subsonic ammo, wow.
Yep. Yeah, the only night vision, obviously you've just explained the difference between night vision and just standard IR, good old fashioned. Remember, you guys might be in the older generation, and my buddies pre-ordered Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 when it first came out, and it actually came with night vision goggles, in air quotes, is what the marketing said, but it was basically the same thing, just had a little illuminator on there. And boy, like, I remember running around the cow fields at night wearing that thing like a freaking idiot and thought it was so awesome. You could only see like 10 feet in front of you because it was so weak. But that was my extent of that technology. Pretty awesome. I can imagine if it was actually in a professional and stronger application, it'd be a lot more fun.
Well, here is the cool way they used to cheat with the IR scopes back in the day, Vietnam era, before, when you use an IR scope. Remember, if you have another IR scope, you'll be able to see anybody illuminating an IR scope. So what they do was put a gigantic bat signal like IR emitter on a tank. Have that tank shine the IR into the clouds, so that will reflect down. So if you had an IR scope, you wouldn't have to activate your lamp. You'll just use the scope itself to pick up the IR that's coming from the tank that's dispersing. So you have further range and you don't expose yourself. So it was almost like night vision, but like way years ahead of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you want to set this up, you can do something like that, and nobody will know. Nobody will be able to figure out where you're at, and you'll just use that to spot with.
Super sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah, you did what you had to do.
Yeah. Call your wife back at the truck. Flip on the light, honey. We'll light these coyotes up.
Exactly. Light them up.
Cool. Well, that's it for the show this week. We want to make sure that there's no listener feedback to report. I want to give Tony an opportunity to plug his doings in the Second is for Everyone.
My Second is for Everyone speech is kind of short, and it's really the importance this week. We lost a Supreme Court justice that's pretty much was on our side, pro-gun, actually pro-constitution.
Oh, he dropped off. I was afraid that was going to happen. We'll just kind of wait a little bit. He's going to pop back in the next couple seconds. Here he is.
Black helicopters, man. Black helicopters flew by my house. You got to join a local group. You have to join one because this is going to make a difference in this election because the next president will choose the next Supreme Court justice. You have to be up on it. You have to take part in rallies. Pretty much the next president will determine if we have a Second Amendment in the next 10 to 20 years. That simple. Quit messing around. I don't want to hear your damn excuses. Before you buy another piece of gear, join a local or national Second Amendment rights group. If you hate the NRA, join something else. But now is the time to quit BSing. That's it. Oh, second is for everyone. Check it out on Facebook.
All right. Well, if you've got questions or comments, send them to my new email address, gungearreview@gmail.com. Remember to subscribe and leave us an iTunes review. Check out all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network at firearmsradio.tv/iTunes. That website has also been updated. And then be sure to visit the brand new firearmsinsider.tv website for reviews and industry coverage. And we've even got a way for you to apply to be a Firearms Insider reviewer and share some of your own reviews of your own personal gear that you want others to know is good or bad or indifferent. So thank you guys for joining me. Really appreciate it. Chad and Tony.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a great
Lots
week.
of fun.
Go shooting, and catch you guys on the next show.
See you.